Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo, and welcome to another HOBOTECH News product review. Bluetti has launched a new subcompact 2600 watt portable power station that embraces a new naming scheme that should hopefully make more sense to customers going forward. The Elite 200 V2 is the successor to the now discontinued AC200P, and this one offers a bigger inverter with more battery, but it's actually significantly smaller and lighter than any 2 kilowatt hour model of the past. But is it any good? Let's find out. Inside the Elite V2 packs a 2074 watt hour automotive grade LFP battery rated for 6,000 cycles. Now they don't state in the manual what that capacity is to, but I'm assuming to 70%. Now as for size and weight, here's where the new Elite model shines over any other mid-sized Bluetti of a similar spec. It's only 14 by 13 by 10 inches and an amazingly slender 53 pounds. This is several inches shorter and smaller in every dimension and over 9 pounds lighter than the current AC200L. And this has the larger inverter. So how they did this was with the use of their very own TARDIS tech. Now I'm kidding, of course. I actually have no real idea how they did it, but I do know they're using a new wire-free manufacturing technique that allows them to make smaller, more sturdy designs, but at the time of filming, I have little information on this. As for the display, the Elite uses the current Bluetti standard display they're putting in just about every model now, and of course that includes all the important information such as input and output watts, time to charge or discharge, battery display with little spinny icon, and other informational icons that pop up when needed. It does have both low and high temperature protection, and icons will appear on the screen if any of those protections are activated. And this Bluetti is one of the few that has all the inputs and outputs on the front, with exception of the AC input, which is here on the side. This will make many folks happy that like to use their power stations in small spaces like RVs or vans, because a lot of times you're going to put these up against the wall or near a cabinet or something where you're not going to have much room on the sides or the back, and there is no wireless pad or anything on top, so you can stick things on the top. Now as for that pure sine inverter, it's a massive 2600 watts with a brief 5200 watt surge ability. That's a heck of a surge ability. And this is output through 4 standard 20 amp outlets. Note that there is no 30 amp RV hookup on this model, which was very surprising, but a TT30R outlet is very large, and if you're going for a compact size, you simply can't include one. If you do want to hook this up to a 30 amp RV, you can simply get a 20 amp to 30 amp dog bone adapter from my website, HOBOTECH.tv, and with that, you can still pull up to 2400 watts all day long, which is more than enough for any RV roof air conditioner. Now, you won't be able to use all 30 amps, of course. You won't be able to use your microwave and the air conditioner at the same time. You have to turn one off to use the other. That's what I do in my RV because I only have a 2000 watt inverter. It's no big deal to me. Now, as for ways to charge this Bluetti, can charge via grid power, of course, at 1800 watts in turbo mode, good for topping up in less than an hour and a half. In standard mode, it takes just under 2 hours, and in silent mode, about 3 hours. Of course, it wouldn't be a solar generator if it couldn't charge some solar. This model does include a single MPPT solar controller, good for 1000 watts of solar charging from 12 to 60 volts, up to a whopping 20 amps. This means you can run more solar panels in parallel, say if you're using larger high voltage panels. It of course does come with a MC4 to X60 adapter. Note this does not use XT60i, although you could use one of those adapters. It just won't make it any faster or slower. As for DC outputs, this is where the Elite really cuts some corners to save space. Gone is that coveted 30 amp DC output of the past, along with the usual 5521 barrel plug outputs. On the Elite 200, you do get a single 12 volt regulated car accessory socket regulated at 13.3 volts and 10 amps. And that's all she wrote when it comes to 12 volts. As for USB output, it does offer some well-rounded USBs with a pair of 100 watt power delivery USB-C outputs and a pair of standard 5-volt USB ports, good for charging up those dinosaurs. Again, no USB-A quick charge ports. They are really keeping this thing compact and low priced. Now, for those of you that hate apps, you hate putting apps on your phone, you think it's dumb to install an app for a power station, I have good news for you. Bluetti is thinking about you. You actually don't need a phone or an app at all to access a lot of the major settings within this product. All you gotta do is hold down DC and AC at the same time. It takes you into the McDonald's secret menu, and that allows you to, again, adjust a bunch of things without a phone. So starting from P1, that's the frequency of the inverter. You can change that. P3 is turbo mode. So that actually allows you to turn on and off fast charging. Next, number 4 allows you to change turn on and off powerlifting. Number 5, turn on and off eco mode. Number 6, turn on or off the Bluetooth transmitter receiver. Same thing, number 7 lets you turn on and off the Wi-Fi. So yes, that means you can actually turn on and off the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi transceivers. So for the truly paranoid who are worried about people hacking into their Bluetti, you can just turn them off and then you don't have to worry about it. And for those of you that really need the outputs like the AC and DC to turn themselves back on after the battery's been killed and then recharged either with solar or grid, this model will actually turn those outputs back on once it's charged up to at least 5%. Now this is something you can set up in the app. As for the warranty, Bluetti now has a standard 5-year manufacturer warranty, I think on everything across the board, but certainly on the Elite 200 V2. And of course we took the Bluetti Elite V2 here into my secret laboratory where I performed all kinds of crazy experiments on it, including, yes of course, let's say it all together now, a double-fisted bang, bang battery capacity test. As for the results of the DC battery capacity test, it scored 1,845 watt hours out of 2074 for a pretty impressive 89%. But the AC battery capacity test scored 1,990 watt hours out of 2074 for an incredible 96%. So Bluetti, whatever circuitry you're using, it's far better and more efficient than just about anything you've put out. I don't know if I've ever ranked any Bluetti at 96% efficiency. I'd have to go back pretty far to get those kind of numbers. So double thumbs up to Bluetti for making this inverter 2,600 watts super efficient. But wait, there's more, because we still got the phantom load or parasitic drain test, which I do on these power stations. Now I did run the DC consumption test for 12 hours, and I ran the AC consumption test for 6 hours. Then what I do is I extrapolate that out to 24 hours to tell you how much it's going to use over those periods of time. Now how I measure this is I let the thing run down over that period of time, and then I recharge it through the solar port using DC, and I measure the amount of power going into the DC port. So I don't just guess by looking at the percentage on the screen. I think a lot of you think I do it that way, but no, I actually put power in through the solar port since that's most efficient to charge it back up. I measure how much power that is. So for DC consumption, it used 72 watt hours over 12 hours, which is almost nothing, or about 144 watt hours over 24 hours. AC consumption was just as impressive. It used only 88 watt hours over 6 hours, or only 352 watt hours over a 24-hour period. This is like half of what we see from other power stations. And this means if you left the inverter running with nothing plugged in, it would take almost 6 days to kill this battery. That's amazing, and actually the best result of any product I've tested to date. So if you're looking for a power station you can leave on all the time to run a refrigerator, this is going to be your buy, guys. Now, I'm always asked how long stuff is going to run on these power stations, so compensating for the usable capacity and the amount of efficiency that we just figured out, you can pause this chart on screen. It'll show you approximately how long common appliances will run on this particular unit. Pure sine wave check under load. 120 volts, 60 hertz, pure sine wave. Inverter capacity test. This is where we push the 2600 watt inverter to its maximum. See how far we can take it. Okay, there we are at 2550, 2600, 2700, 2800, 2900, 3000, 3100, 3200, 3300, and there it goes. It finally shut down. Just over 3200. Okay, by popular demand, I have a new test, the 15 amp saw test. It's a 15 amp saw. Let's see if it will start up. No problem starting up the saw. Next is the 5 minute sustained cooling or heat soak test, where we push this thing at 2600 watts. It's limit on the inverter for at least 5 minutes to make sure it doesn't do anything crazy like start smoking or drinking or calling it some other names or forgetting to take the trash out. That's a big one. So let's go ahead and start the timer. We're already at 2600 watts. Let's let it run for 5 minutes, see what happens. Here we are at 5 minutes. Everything is fine. So besides a slight new power station smell, which they all have, this thing is running perfectly. It's not making any funky sounds or doing anything. In fact, it took 5 minutes for the fan to kick on high. So let's go ahead and do a decibel test. Okay, so right around 50 decibels at its maximum. Max charge rate test. This is where we see how much fake solar we can push into this unit through its entire range. So this applies to solar, 12 and 24 volt charging. So the range on this is printed at the input. It says 12 to 60 volts, up to 20 amps, 1000 watts maximum. So let's see if that range is legit and if we can put in 1000 watts or even more. At 12 volts, it's internally limited to 8.2 amps and you're getting 100 watts. This is typical because you don't want to melt a cigarette lighter in your car, so they limit it to 8 amps. Let's take it up to 24 volts. At 24 volts, it's still hard limited to 8.2 amps or around 193 watts. Let's take it on up to 36 volts. So if you're going to charge from a 36 volt power supply or 36 volt system, you notice the amps immediately went up to 18, which in this case is actually 20 amps. For some reason, the display doesn't show 20, but it actually is outputting 20. At 36 volts, you're getting around 630 watts. So if you'll be charging from a 48 volt battery or a pair of 200 to 300 watt solar panels, is going to be about 50 volts. So at 48 volts, 20 amps, it's around 850 watts. Let's take it on up to its limit of 60 volts. And at 60 volts, 20 amps, we're getting the magical 1000 watts. So it looks like we're getting about 950, 960, 980. And that's about where it tops out, right around the magic 1000 watt mark, which is listed here on the product. Okay, we know 60 volts is the upper limit on the product, but can we push it any further past 60 volts? So we'll know as soon as this conks off and this stops charging when we reach the limit. 61 volts, 62, 63, 64. Right at 64 volts, it cuts it off and you get an error message. So this does have the safety built in that if you accidentally overvolt, the Bluetti will shut off the input. Okay, we know what it can do with solar, but what about AC charging? So within the app, there are 3 charging modes. You get silent, standard, and turbo. So let's start with silent, and it is charging at 800 watts. You can see right there, 800 watts, and I'm putting my ear up to the side. I don't hear the fans turning at all, so we're gonna call that silent. Okay, let's change the charging mode to standard. It's now charging at 1400 watts. I still barely hear the fans turning on now. Let's give it a few minutes. So I switched it to standard mode. I let it run for about 5 minutes. The fans finally kicked on. Let's see how loud they are. 44 decibels. That's still really quiet. Let's kick it up on turbo. Okay, now here's something kind of silly that Bluetti put in to make it annoying for everybody. If you want to switch to turbo mode now, it comes up with this disclaimer that says they're not going to be liable for damages. And if you click accept, it asks you for a password. So now if you want to charge this in turbo mode, you have to put in a password. Fortunately, I figured the password out pretty easily. So you heard it here first. The password is all 8s. So put all 8s in there and it will accept the password. And now we're in turbo mode.
Super pursuit mode.
What does turbo mode buy you? But Another 400 watts of charging. So now you're charging at 1750 watts. It does say 1800 in the manual, but that's close enough. So it gets you another 400 watts of charging speed by going into turbo mode. Now the fans don't really seem any louder to me, but I'm going to go ahead and let it charge in turbo mode for a couple of minutes and see if they crank up any louder. After several minutes on turbo mode, it is a little bit louder. Let's see how loud. So right around 45 decibels. It's still very pleasant. It's just a little bit louder. Bluetti does say in the manual this product supports simultaneous charging from AC and DC, and it actually has solar priorities. They tell me right in the book what I should be looking for. I'm currently charging in turbo mode at maximum 1750 watts. Let's go ahead and plug the fake solar in for a full 1000 watts and see what charge rate we get. So we are getting 1000 in from solar, and now 1400 in from AC. So combined 2400 watts of charging into the battery. That's really fast. You can see here, it is actually solar priority. So it's pulling a full 17 amps at 62 volts in from solar. And then from the grid, it's pulling the rest of 1400 watts. I do like the fact that it splits it up. So you can see that you're getting 1000 from solar and 1400 from the grid for a combined 2400 watts. Next is the 12 volt test. Now this only has one single 12 volt output via the cigarette lighter socket adapter. It is regulated at 13.3 volts. Let's see if we can get 10 amps out of it, because that's what it's rated for. There we go. It is 10 amps and still outputting about 12.5 volts. So this does pass the test. All right, USB checks. So this has a dual 100 watt power delivery output. I have a pair of power banks that can take 140 watts each. These are new USB-C power delivery 3.1. It's a new version, it's out. Everybody asked me about these power banks. I'm going to put a link to these down in the description. I might do a separate review on them. They are awesome. They input and output USB 140 watts simultaneously. They actually have two USB-C ports on them, and it can output 140 watts from each at the same time. Input and output, which is pretty awesome. So that's why I bought these. I will put a link in the description, like I said. So as you can see here, I'm actually outputting 200 watts exactly into these two power banks. Then you can see there, each one of these are taking 97 watts. So that, of course, is a big fat pass. Now for the most controversial test on the entire interwebs, the UPS or uninterruptible power supply test. Bluetti does claim this has a 15 millisecond UPS feature built in. Let's test it out. I have a full PC computer here, which I am going to play a music video from YouTube in full resolution while I am charging the Bluetti battery at the same time. We're going to give this the full Monty. So here we go. I'm playing the video. We have the power coming in through this switch box into the Bluetti and then coming out to the computer. So as soon as I hit this switch, it's going to turn off AC power to the Bluetti. We're going to actually see if it actually affects the PC and causes it to lock up or shut off or anything weird like that. So place your bets. 3, 2, 1. All right, video is still playing. It's pulling around 45 watts. There is no power coming in. Let's turn it back on. I like to do this test twice just to make sure there are no residual issues with the relay switching back and forth. Okay, again, we're charging from AC power. We're going to switch it again. 3, 2, 1. No problem. The video is still playing. So this passed the UPS test with flying colors. Musician's favorite amp interference test. This is where we determine, is the amp clean or dirty? Can you use this for a power amp PA system, ham radio gear? Is there a lot of interference coming out of the AC inverter through the power line that you can hear out of a speaker? That's pretty much all it comes down to. So I haven't tried this yet. As soon as I power on the AC inverter, it's going to power up the amp and we're going to see, does it make any buzzy, clicky, weird noises or is it clean? So go ahead, place your bets. 3, 2, 1. Sounds pretty darn clean to me, so this passes the amp interference test. Next test is the AM radio interference test. So when we turn this on, does it cause any kind of weird signals to come through the AM radio? Let's find out. And there you have it. The AM interference isn't any worse than it is with pretty much any other power station of this class. Next test is the EMF or electromagnetic interference test. We're going to see how much EM radiation comes off this thing because that might affect certain people, like if you have a pacemaker or if you have this in a room with other sensitive equipment, you might want to know these readings. Okay, so we have a baseline of about 1. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Okay, not too bad. The wireless is now coming on with the Bluetooth, and it settles back down to about 3. That's not too bad at all. Let's try the DC circuit. It clicks way up there for way more than a few seconds. That's unusual. I almost never see DC get really high like that. Very interesting. I wonder if these USB ports are leaky. I've never really seen that. So that's something to be concerned about. Let's put on the AC inverter. All right, AC inverter is reading 87, which is pretty high. So all this means is that if you're concerned about electromagnetic interference in the room from the DC circuit, this is not going to be the product for you. The AC circuit is about standard. I usually read somewhere between 70 and 90 for the AC, but it's very rare for the DC to read anything, let alone almost 70. That's a lot of EM coming off this product, probably in the USB ports, don't really know for sure. So what do I think about the Bluetti 200 Elite V2? Well, for those of you that thrive for simple, compact, yet very usable power for virtually any type of remote power use while camping in an RV or van, at a job site, the Elite 200 is for you. If you want easy, portable backup power for your home to run a fridge or other appliances when the power goes out, the Elite 200 is a great choice because, again, it's super, super efficient when you leave it on to run appliances. If you plan to run a 12-volt compressor fridge, this is one of the best choices out there today is because it also just sips power when the DC circuit's turned on. Some of the other Bluetti products we've seen recently haven't been so frugal on the juice, so whatever they're doing in this model, I hope they put into all future models. But on the flip side, if you're looking for something with battery expansion ability or 30 amp outputs, either AC or DC, wireless charging, or anything else beyond what this offers, you're probably going to want to look into the AC200L or larger models. It's also obvious that this is not a power station for whole home backup, nor will this run your air conditioner all night long. That's what the AC300 and AC500 is for. Now, for the record, I was as confused as you probably are about the Elite 200 V2 naming scheme. And I asked Bluetti what was up with the V2 part, as there was never a V1. Now, I spoke directly with the CEO of the company, and they said, we're not going to disclose this right now. You need to wait for CES in January. Now, that's a very strange answer to a very basic question, but okay, I guess we're going to find out in January why this product is called the Elite V2 instead of the Elite V1, because there was no V1 that I know of. But maybe there's an Elite V1 coming up at CES in January. That would be my uneducated guess. I'm just finally happy that they took my advice and are going with a new naming scheme, because longtime subscribers know it's been one of my biggest complaints over the past several years about these overly confusing product model names that they've been using, AC200, 200L, 200X, 200C, 200P. It's like nobody knows what the heck they're buying. So they're finally getting rid of that, and they're going to a new naming scheme, which finally they started to listen to their customers, and that's wonderful. Now, product price. This is where things get pretty awesome because Bluetti is launching this product at a truly amazing deal. This is a 2600 watt inverter with a 2 kilowatt hour battery. They're launching it at $10.99. That's pretty insane. That's 53 cents per watt hour for a name brand power station, top of the line, brand new, all this technology. But wait, there's more, because for a limited time, Bluetti is offering an additional 5% off viewers of HOBOTECH because they know just how awesome you guys are. So this is going to knock that price from $10.99 down to $10.44, which brings you into that magical realm of 50 cents per watt hour. Yes, brand new state-of-the-art, top brand name power station for 50 friggin' cents per watt hour. What's this world coming to? I think they're gonna sell like 1 billion of these things. Now granted, this price isn't gonna last because they said this deal is gonna vanish on December 3rd. So don't be a slacker and complain in the comments about the price hike on December 4th.
Yes, that's $10.44.
Because I'll just simply ban you. So if you're interested in the Elite 200 V2, the link and discount code is going to be in the description of this video below. I'm also going to put a link here at the bottom of the screen. You can type it along with a QR code. You can scan on your mobile if you're watching me on TV. That'll take you on over to the Bluetti store page where you can check out the new Elite 200 V2. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below. And if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box.